Hey, happy Sunday, or whatever day you're listening to this. In honor of a little Barcelona girls reunion this summer, I chose this week's special select episode as How to Win Friends because I love these girls and it's a good episode with a lot of interesting information and I think it's kind of funny. So it's also our most listened to episode of the podcast. And let's revisit it because why not? It's a good episode. Warms my heart. Enjoy.
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
same in Barcelona. Like I could be like, be like a calm student and stuff, but then at night the other part of me comes out and let's party. Yeah, it's funny.
Welcome to this week's episode of 10 Hours from Home. I just want to say thank you guys again for all your support. Every week we're doing a little bit better than the week before, and that's so exciting. And I want to say thank you so much. So thank you. I promised you guys an update on the house situation in Paris. If you've been listening, I have been looking for apartments in Paris. I put in an offer on a house in Paris, an apartment in Paris, not a house. I wish I had house money in Paris. That's the next step. So keep liking and subscribing and sharing so we can get the house in Paris. I'll invite everybody. So I put in an offer on the apartment and it was accepted. I'm so excited. The next step is to go into what's called promis de vente or something like this. I couldn't really understand the realtor, but basically it means I have to get with a lawyer, a notaire actually, who's specifically notary, a notary, in other words, in English. But a notary, not like a notary in the US. A notary in the US doesn't have a lot of power. They just witness things. But a notary in France has to go to like law school to do whatever they do. Anyway, so I'm getting with the notary and we're doing this promise of sale and we have a month to complete it. That's perfect because when I get back from Morocco, I can finish everything up, sign these pieces of paper, and get the process started. Because from the moment you make the offer in Paris to the acceptance of the offer and getting your keys for your apartment in Paris is about 3 months. So this will be an interesting ride. Plus, we're doing it during vacation time. So anyway, hopefully it'll go smoothly and everything will happen as it's supposed to. But thus far, the process has started, and hopefully at the end of 3 months, I will be an apartment owner in the 5th arrondissement of Paris, which is very exciting. And the other exciting thing about this week is that my Moroccan family well, they're actually already in a place called Imouzer, which is a little bit outside of Fez, about an hour and a half outside of Fez in the mountains. It's known for skiing. Well, Ifran is known for skiing, but it's right next to Ifran. And this is the yearly holiday that they take. And I'm very excited that I get to go and spend a little bit of time with them on this holiday. So because I had to work and because my friend had to work, we stayed in Casablanca while they left on Sunday, and we will join them on Thursday night. I wasn't even asked if I wanted to go. Actually, I was told I would be coming on Thursday night. Be ready on Thursday night because after work we're going up to Imouzer. Okay, sounds good. So Imouzer is just this cute little town that isn't anything crazy touristy. It's a place that a lot of Moroccans go for holidays. It's up in the mountains, lots of fresh air, hiking, that kind of stuff. It's mostly family time. They went and picked up grandma yesterday. So grandma is safely in Imouzer and we can all be together and enjoy the time we have together, even if it is just a weekend for me and my friend. But I'm very excited that that's happening this week. And I'm very excited about the guest that I have this week because she is a dear friend of mine who I got to know in Barcelona. We spent lots of drunken nights together in Barcelona. And she is so incredibly smart and so incredibly kind. And now she has her own business that she's a travel coach. And so she helps people with traveling and living abroad and the whole mindset shift that you need in order to do all those things. And so she's just a really cool person. Her name is Veerle, and I never say her name right because I can't say it because she's from the Netherlands. So it's as close as I can possibly get. V is amazing, and she has the best advice when it comes to finding friends. And we're both introverts. So we talk about finding friends as introverts. And it's just a really great episode. And I actually talked to her back when I was in California. So it's a little bit older and I have on different clothes now and different hair, but all of it is really good information and obviously timeless because everybody has to make friends at some point. And when you're in a foreign country and you don't know anybody and you're doing your best, I think she gives some really good advice about how to do it. It was nice chatting with her, and I hope you guys enjoy our stories and her helpful advice. So let's get into it.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. So good to see you again after such a long time.
I know, it's crazy. It's been too long.
I know.
How are you?
Yeah, I was wondering because you mentioned you were, I think 9 hours behind, right? So I was wondering
Yeah.
where you were. So you're in the States right now?
Yeah, I'm in California. But you came back from Australia
Yeah,
to a
I know.
pandemic.
Yeah, I know that wasn't really part of the plan actually, because I wanted to stay longer, but yeah, then the pandemic happened and I basically lost my visa.
Oh
So
gosh.
then, yeah, I had to move back to the Netherlands, and then you're suddenly in your home country and thinking like, okay, now what? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So I guess the pandemic just has moved us everywhere, basically. Yeah.
Yes. I know, it's so weird coming back to kind of like home base after being, all over for so long.
Yeah, and especially if it's not really something you wanted to do, it's not like
Yeah.
it just happened suddenly. It's like, okay, and now what?
Yeah.
So yeah, it really takes
Exactly.
some time to adjust.
It's weird, like having lived somewhere else and then like coming home for what you think is going to be like a short period of a time to just kind of like reset. And then you're here for like much longer than you thought you would be. So,
Yeah, because I moved back in August last year, and now I was
oh,
like, oh
wow.
wow, it's already the 1st of May.
Mm-hmm.
Before I know, I have been here for a year. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I was thinking about it this morning and I'm like, we've known each other for like almost 11 years. Like, that's a
Yeah, I was also
lifetime.
counting. Actually. Yeah, because it was 2010 that I moved to Barcelona. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah, that's actually a long time. And the last time we saw each other was in Paris, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember which year that was. I think it was 2 years after, right?
It
Don't know
was
exactly.
2013.
We should definitely organize a
I
reunion.
know. I agree. Okay. I remember us all meeting through an au pair group, which is why I just lumped you into the au pair
Yeah,
group. And I was like, okay, Verla's not in the au pair group. So, like, how did you? I
yeah.
forget now because I feel like we were always there, and that's just how.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. Actually, I don't remember how we met. No, like the
Yeah.
first time, if we all met together, or I knew one person first and then the others. Yeah,
I
actually,
feel
I
like
don't
you knew
remember.
Anne Sophie first.
But then I'm just thinking, where did I meet her? I really don't remember. No, because my memory is just like of us all together having fun. But
Mine
then
too.
when it actually started,
I was sitting there and I was like, Veerle's just always been there. I just think of all the times on my rooftop.
I don't know if I just met you randomly somewhere and it was like, hi, let's party together. I actually,
Maybe.
yeah, I actually really don't remember, no.
Well, at least I'm not alone in that, because I was like, oh my God, I'm such a bad friend.
Because I was thinking maybe it was like a Facebook group or something, but at that time it was not like, you just meet a lot of people online.
Yeah,
There wasn't even WhatsApp at that time.
I know. I know. We all had our little like Spanish phones, and then we had our like American phones. Or not American. I had my like American phone. And you
Yeah,
all
and like
had.
Skype to call your family,
Yeah.
but that was it.
So I wanted to dive in and just like ask you, why did you choose Barcelona? Because I feel like we never had this conversation either.
For my studies, I studied international law,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the chance to move abroad, and I could basically pick a country in Europe because it was this Erasmus exchange program.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, I always loved to learn Spanish. So basically, I was like, I have to go to Spain.
Yeah.
That made the most sense. And then I could pick between 6 months and 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I want to go as long as possible. I'm ready for like an adventure, and I want to learn Spanish. So 12 months, Barcelona it is. Yeah, because I could basically choose between Madrid and Barcelona. And then I was like, well, Barcelona is also close to the beach.
Yeah.
And the weather is nice. I mean, we have a beach in the Netherlands, but yeah, the weather's not that great. So I was
Yeah.
like, that's also
Yeah, it's a
extra.
little cold.
Yeah, exactly. So that was basically, yeah, kind of like
Nice.
the reason. I didn't really think about it that long, except that I really wanted to learn Spanish.
Did you
Yeah.
learn Spanish in Barcelona though? Because I feel like because they speak Catalan, like I went speaking Spanish and I feel like I left knowing less Spanish, but that might just have been my like drunk 20-year-old self.
Oh, yeah. I really, when I left, I spoke Spanish fluently actually, because when I
Oh,
arrived, I didn't know anything, like maybe
amazing.
10 words. But then all my classes were in Spanish, and my housemates, they didn't speak English at all. So I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
okay, I have to learn as quickly as possible to survive. I was
Yeah.
like, this I have to. So I basically also just took my grammar book to the beach and stuff like that, like studying all the time. And of
Yeah.
course, it helps when you go out and have a drink and practice. You feel more confident.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess that's why I learned it so fast, because I felt like I don't have another choice. If I want to have a good time here, I really need to learn as quickly as I can, and also to understand my classes, because
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, it didn't make any sense. The first few weeks I was really like, that was like my fourth year of like law school, and I was like, I should understand a little bit of what they're talking about after already 3 years, But it's like I have no idea what they're saying in Spanish. Yeah. So in the beginning, it was quite a struggle, but I guess
Yeah.
that helped me to push myself to really learn. Yeah.
Oh yeah. When your feet are like to the fire, you have no choice.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's how it was with me for French. It was like, you know, at that time, even in Paris, nobody spoke, well, if they spoke English, they didn't want to speak it to you because it wasn't
Hmm.
cool yet. So, like, if I wanted to like figure out how to eat, like I had to learn French.
But I think it helped that you already like spoke a bit of Spanish, right? Like, didn't it
People
make it easier for you, or not really?
No,
No.
people say that all the time. You would think, right? But grammatically, they're so different.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
I don't know. It gets just jumbled in my head. Even to this day, if I go to the pharmacy, instead of saying j'ai douleur, I have pain, I say douleur. So, why did you end up going to Australia? What was the kind of draw there? And then, like, what was your experience in Australia?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you got engaged.
I know a lot of things happened in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I basically I was working in the Netherlands, like in a corporate job for a few years, and
Mhm.
I really missed like the living abroad adventure. Like after Barcelona, I started working. I lived in Cambodia for a few months. That was still
Oh
like
wow.
an adventure, which was really cool. But then afterwards, I kind of like got like stuck in a 9 to 5 and just working hard. And after I think about 3 years, I was like, oh, I feel like I want to go somewhere else again and just not only travel during my vacation days,
Mhm.
which are just like a few weeks a year. So I was like, I need a bit more.
Yeah.
So then basically, I did like my job. So I was like, can I find like a way that I can combine like the traveling with my job? So then actually, I arranged a job I had that I could go on an assignment to Australia, like to the office there in Sydney
Oh nice.
for 6 months. I was supposed to to move back to the Netherlands, continue with my job after 6 months. But yeah, you know what happened.
Yeah.
I didn't want to
Yeah,
leave
how long
anymore.
were you there total?
Eventually, 3 years. Three
Okay.
years. Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I thought.
And I would have stayed longer if the pandemic hadn't happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I would have still been there. But yeah, so I liked it so much, and in those 6 months, I also met my now fiance,
Yeah.
which also, of course, helped a bit with the decision to stay. But besides that, I would have wanted to stay anyway because I just really really loved living in Australia, and 6 months is just too short
Mhm.
when you move somewhere, especially if you move like really to the other side of the world. I was like, I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I'm just getting to know the city and the country, and now I have to leave again. No, I want to stay. So luckily, I could exchange my like assignment contract to a local contract and stay with the company.
Oh
Um,
cool.
and yeah, stay for a few more years. And then in between, I also moved to Melbourne because then I had to experience another city as well, like a
Yeah.
different part of Australia. So that was really cool. I really loved living in Australia. It's such a beautiful country. Have
Mhm.
you been there already or not?
I've never been there. And I mean,
No.
full disclosure, I always see like the big ass bugs and I'm like, I'm
Oh,
okay.
yeah. When I moved there, like all of my friends were like, "Oh, but you know, like everything there can kill you, right?"
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I'm not sure if it's that like sounds a bit dramatic, but of course that's what you see on like like
Yeah.
TV shows, big spiders and crocodiles, and of course they are all there.
Yeah.
But luckily, I didn't see any like insects in my apartments and stuff. I was really lucky because almost everyone I knew had like these big spiders once, or
Oh
I feel
God.
like I would just have gotten a heart attack.
Yeah. That I would
Yeah,
have been like, I'm going home.
yeah. But I mean, if you live in the big cities, it's not like you see like kangaroos hopping on like around on
Yeah.
the street. It's not like that. Of course, you have to be careful where you go, but it's not like everywhere where you go, everything can kill you. It's really not not like that.
How did you and your fiance meet?
Yeah, that's also a nice story. He always has like this whole story about it when someone asks us, but I will give you like this the short version. But it was actually in one of my first weeks in Sydney. I think it was like the fourth week or something, and it was really raining. But I was like, well, I'm new in the city. I want to explore a bit. I'm just going to go out anyway, and I'm just going to a shopping mall, just to
Mhm.
walk around a bit. But I just always get lost in shopping malls. I'm like outdoors, I'm really good with directions, but in the shopping mall, I don't know what happens. But when I leave a shop, it's like I don't remember which way I came from or where I have to go. So it was kind of like that just happened, and I started to panic a bit, and I was walking and looking around at the same time, but not really looking where I was going to. And then someone bumped on me, so I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm new here, I'm trying to find the exit. And that was my now fiance. He was like, oh no, don't worry, calm down, what's happening? So I told him, oh yeah, I'm really lost, I want to go to the exit. So he helped me out, so we chatted a bit, but then we kind of like went our own way. And then about, I think, 15 minutes later, it was still raining, so I was like, okay, let's grab coffee. So I went into a Starbucks, And I just opened the door, and the first person I looked to, like he was sitting in the corner, was my now fiance. I was like, so we saw each other and we started to laugh. So it was like, okay, this is so funny. This is like a coincidence, not really, maybe,
Yeah.
Yeah. So he invited me for coffee, and we started talking for hours and exchanged numbers. And yeah, that's actually how it
Oh, wow.
started. Random, we bumped into each other basically.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It was like divine intervention.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like people always say, like, "Oh, that sounds like a movie scene." It always sounds, almost sounds like it's like a story. But yeah, it really happened like that. So that's funny.
Well, now I know. Because, like,
Yeah,
the thing is, I always think about you guys. I follow everybody on social media, but I feel like we never, like, get an opportunity to just chat, because we're all in different places. So,
true. Yeah. So it's really nice.
from my perspective, Barcelona was a lot of, like, eat, sleep, rave, repeat. And so I want to hear from, like, your perspective, because I was in fashion school. It wasn't like, I was studying international law.
I felt like Barcelona was kind of some sort of a break for me because I already had been studying so much for 3 years, and I was like, oh, now I'm in a different environment. This is like a completely like new world for me. So I also didn't do like too many classes. I really did like the minimum of points that I had to get, so that I had enough free time to learn Spanish, but also just have fun and explore.
I feel like every night or every weekend at least, we would go out and I know I would get really drunk.
Yeah, that was like actually like the opposite of the pandemic, like just going out every day,
Yeah.
basically meeting new people, being in like crowded clubs and yeah, whatever. At least 4 nights a week, like really like clubbing, and the other
Mhm.
nights were just having drinks in like a restaurant or just on the beach or whatever. But almost every night I just went out. I didn't spend much time in the apartment. It was just meeting up with
Yeah.
people. And also because in Barcelona, like when you go out, it was so different than in the Netherlands. Like here you start partying around like 11 p.m. maybe, and then
Mhm.
everything closes at 4 a.m., sometimes
Mhm.
earlier at 2 a.m. But in Barcelona, like it starts at 2 a.m., right?
Yeah.
So it
Oh
was like
god.
completely different. And I was like, oh my God, like party until 6 a.m. before you sleep. It's like 8 a.m. So then you sleep, and
Mhm.
then in the afternoon when you wake up, you go to the beach, and then at night you party again. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I
It
know.
was like crazy time. Yeah.
Sometimes I look back on the Barcelona days, and I'm like, how did I survive? Because
True.
now I have like one drink and I'm like useless to the world. I
I
remember
know.
one night on my roof, we were drinking alcohol out of a bucket and like,
Yes. I remember, I think I still have some photos somewhere.
yeah,
Like, of course, I was younger and I guess I had more energy and I recovered faster.
yeah,
But still, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how I could do that, and not just one night a week, like
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every night. And then retain like anything in class. So I think we should talk about a little bit what it's like to party in Barcelona. The
Hmm.
big beach clubs and the.
True. That was also actually so different for me because, like in the Netherlands, when you go out, you don't need to dress up. If you want to
Mhm.
go to a bar with your jeans and like sneakers or your sweater, it's fine. Whatever you feel like. If you can dress up if you want to, but you don't have to. And then Barcelona was like, oh, you dress up nice dresses and heels,
Yeah.
and I loved it because I was like, oh wow, this is really like a party.
Yeah.
It's like so different than what I was used to. And then all those clubs, I wasn't used to that either. Like big
Yeah.
clubs with VIP areas and cocktails, and
Yeah.
yeah, what you mentioned, like on the beach. And I was like, wow, this is a whole new world.
Oh, I know.
And then the
Yeah.
guest lists. Do
Oh
you
god,
remember?
Shaz list.
Yes.
Shaz list was like the thing you said to get into the club, whether you were on it or not. You just were like, you knew that there was like a deal you could get in for free with like 7 free drinks or.
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
was.
that's like do you know the password? Then you can enter for free. I just remember there was like one, like kind of like a sushi night. If you had the invite, you could just go there for free to the club, have this like exclusive dinner type of thing before the party starts, like in the
Yeah.
VIP, and then you get free drinks. And I was always like, this is so random. Like,
Yeah.
it's great, but
No,
how does this even work?
I
Yeah.
know, right? How are you making any money? The other thing is, I remember I would go to the little store on the corner and you could buy like Lambrusco for like 85 cents. And it was good Lambrusco.
Yeah, and then you also had those VIP areas, right? And then someone would just ask, like, "Oh, do you want to join the VIP?" And then we got like free champagne. And like in the beginning, I remember I was like, "Oh, but what do they want from me?"
Yeah.
And just get free drinks all night. And I was like, "How does this work? I don't get it." But
Am I a prostitute now?
yeah, but it was just fine, you know. It was not like no one
No,
was
I
bothering
know.
you.
Yeah.
You just had like your own party all night, and
Yeah.
then when you wanted to go, it's like, "Okay, bye. Thank you so much for all
Yeah.
the free drinks," and that was it.
So I just remember when I was there, like the scale of these clubs, like they were
Hmm.
huge. I had never seen anything like it before. And like I partied in San Francisco, I had been to Miami. The size of these places and just like and it was like one DJ. It wasn't like there were some places that had like multiple floors and different
Hmm.
DJs and stuff. But like even in Paris, it's incomparable. I just feel like it's a whole different level because these places were huge and like
Yeah.
packed all the time we were there. Spain had changed the law. So when I first got there, it was like you could still smoke everywhere, like in all the
Mm.
clubs and all the restaurants. And then January that year, it switched to like you can't smoke anymore.
That's true. Yes.
And it made like this really weird difference in the experience of like clubbing. Cause like you would go home, I remember, get all of my things off of me and put them on my
Hmm.
terrace. And like, cause I was like, I smell like smoke and this is gross. And then you'd go like January 2011 and all you smelled in the club was like body odor. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
did you ever
Yeah.
do the Correr Foc, like the fire run?
I don't think so.
It was like one of the first times I think Anne Sophie and I hung out. It was like nothing I had ever seen before because it was, I mean, you know what it is, right?
Yeah, isn't it that they just go with like all those fires through the street and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they like, you dance under the like fireworks. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like these sparklers that like shoot off like
Yeah, no, I didn't really see that, but yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
it was crazy. Like people would dress up as the devil and like run through the streets with like these things that like would spin, sparkler, fire, whatever, covering my entire body except for like my
Hmm.
face. I mean, like really, I feel like in Barcelona, and tell me if you agree or not, but like you could party literally 24 hours a day.
Yeah, definitely if you want to. Yeah.
I went as an au pair, and we had this group of au pair through the like company that would hook you up with other people. But like you were there with a school, and of course you have like housemates. But like, how did you go about meeting people? Because I mean, you said like I was like, who can I meet? And so how did you go about? Did you just have the balls to like walk up to people, or
Yeah, I'm thinking about it because I don't think there were like Facebook groups at that time yet, but I
no?
know there were like Erasmus like groups and stuff. But I
Yeah.
remember there were like groups that you could sign up to, like, and just to meet people. So I
Mm-hmm.
remember I signed up for a few of those like meetup events and just
Oh
went there
yeah.
by myself. And I'm like, okay, I hope someone is nice, you know. And then you just start talking. But it was so easy to actually meet people because there were so many international students who all went there by themselves and were looking
Mm-hmm.
for friends, so everyone was really like open-minded to meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you don't connect with everyone, but you just you chat with a lot of people, and then you're like, okay, I like this person, hang out another time, and then you just create your own groups, but then that group, like, people invite someone else, and then you hang out with those people, and like it
Yeah.
went like really natural, I guess. You could just go from one party to another, and I think it also helped there. That was also an eye opener for me. For example, my housemates, they were like, "Oh yes, we're going to this party of, like, it's the birthday of a friend of a friend. Come and join us." And I was like, "But I don't know that person."
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "No, that's okay. Just bring a bottle of wine, and it's fine, you know." But
Yeah.
that could, like, never happen in the Netherlands. It's like you invite your friends and no one brings anyone else. It's like
Mm.
really like a closed group. And there I was like, "Oh my god, this is so great. This is like so much easier to meet new people, because you just go to this party of a person you don't know. You're like, okay, happy birthday," and and you just have a room full of people. I mean, you have to just start talking to someone, of course, but I guess you get into this flow and you're just excited to meet people.
It's
And then
true.
that just happens. And as I mentioned, a lot of people, maybe you're like, okay, it's nice to chat, but I don't feel a friendship here.
Mm-hmm.
But then you meet so many people, like, eventually you actually do create friendships, and then you hang out with those people more, and you get, like, deeper friendships, like, the group that we had.
Yeah.
Like, in the beginning, you just grab every opportunity you have, and then after a while, you're like, okay, you
Okay,
slow
yeah.
down a bit, and you have your, your group
Pick
of
and
friends.
choose.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of, like, created a group that you want to hang out with more.
No, that's true. And I do feel like, with the exception of my au pair family, who were
Mhm.
insane, I feel like the Catalans are pretty. Like, I did have friends in school, like Spanish friends, who would be like, oh, come to this tonight. Or I agree, like in the US, okay, maybe once in a while you ask your friend whose birthday it is, like, do you mind if I bring someone I think you guys would like, or whatever. Not like
Mhm.
not like in Spain. Not,
Yeah.
I mean, I found Morocco to be the same. Was like, a friend of mine invited me to her cousin's wedding, and I was like, I don't know your cousin. Like, I don't have a present. I don't even have a caftan to wear. And, but it's like, oh, it's fine. Just come,
Yeah,
And I
that's
feel like the
so cool.
Spaniards, yeah, I feel like the Spaniards have that same, oh, don't worry, no pasa nada. Like,
Hmm.
come
Yeah, that
and
was,
just
like,
hang
actually
out.
the quote of my whole year there, I guess. No pasa nada. When I learned that sentence, I was like, oh wow.
It's like the motto of
Yeah, exactly.
Barcelona. No pasa nada, no worries.
Yeah, exactly. No worries, just join us. And but that was great, because that made it so easy to meet people.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, you're kind of, like, stuck to maybe meeting people at your school, or maybe
Yeah.
randomly. But it's not that easy then. But
Yeah.
because everyone is there, like, inviting everyone, you just it's so easy to meet new people.
I don't know. I always think about it like, was it age? Was it the place? Or is it like a combination of all of it?
It's maybe a combination. Because sometimes I wonder, like, if I would go back again and live there for another year,
Mhm.
like, the experience wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't party as hard, for
Yeah.
sure. But I'm also like, I'm not sure if I really want to be that outgoing and meet so many people, or if I'm more like, okay, I'm happy with a few friends. I have, like, deeper connections, instead of just have all those, like, party
Yeah.
connections and stuff. I guess it also has to do with age, maybe.
That's true. Well, and I think what was interesting to me about you was that you present really, like, quiet and kind of, like, reserved, but I feel like you're not that at all, because, like, get you on the dance floor and you like salsa and you're like out here doing all the things, and like,
True.
so I felt like
Yeah.
you were always very sweet and personable, and you converse, like, we'd have lovely conversations, but I felt like there was like a shift when you would get on the dance floor too.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's like another version, not another version, but like another part of me that comes out, I guess, when I hear music that I like. It's the same. Not sure if you know, I'm also a Zumba instructor, and it's also
Yeah.
like when I teach in, like, daily life. What you mentioned, I'm quite calm, and not like super outgoing. But then when I'm in front of the class with my students, I'm like crazy and super happy. And it's the
Yeah.
same when I go out. It's like on the dance floor, if I'm like, oh, I love this song, let's dance. Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
same in Barcelona. Like, I could be like, be like calm student and stuff, but then at night the other part of me comes out and let's party. And, yeah, it's funny.
And I know you've taught Zumba for like a long time now, right?
Yeah, almost 10 years actually, I guess.
And you've done
Yeah.
like salsa competitions, right?
Yeah, I first started teaching salsa actually, and then later I got into Zumba as well. And yeah, I've been doing that like ever since. It's just dancing has always been my passion. But what I love about those dances like salsa, it's also like social.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to go to like salsa parties and dance with other people, and Zumba is just also like a fun workout. And I just love the music. And then when I teach, I can just pick like all my favorite songs, and so that's good too.
So what all are you doing now? So you came back during the pandemic and you came back to the Netherlands. Are you still with the same company? What are you doing now?
When I left Australia, so basically I lost my job there because of the pandemic, and then
Mm-hmm.
my visa was linked to my job. So yeah,
Yeah,
that meant I had to leave.
that
So
sucks.
then when I came back on, yeah, that was really, I was really like in shock.
I
So
can
then I
imagine.
just came back to the Netherlands and I was like, now what? It's in the middle of the pandemic. I don't have a job. I don't even feel like I want to be here. It's like, what
Yeah.
am I doing here? Like,
I was forced back.
yeah, I was like supposed to be in Australia still. So the first few months, I didn't do much. I really had to like adjust. I really had like reverse culture shock.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and then lockdown, and it was like really overwhelming. But then yeah, after a few months, I was like, okay, what do I want? I need to do something. And I always dreamt of having my own business, but
Mm-hmm.
it also always felt a bit like a scary step. And then it was kind of like easier to stay in my job, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't really take that step. And also because my job was linked to my visa, I was like, it made sense to
Yeah.
have the job, right? But then at that moment, I was like, well, I don't have a job. There's no reason I can't, no excuses anymore. This is the
Yeah.
moment I should just give it a try. And then I actually came across this coaching program to get certified as a travel coach. And
Oh,
I was like,
cool.
wow, this really sounds like something that I would love to do, because then I can just all the experience I have of living in different countries, and also just I really started focusing on like personal development as well, like the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of years. So I was like, oh, I can combine all of this into like coaching and actually help other people who want to move to another country, or who have moved already and like are struggling,
Mm-hmm.
like while transitioning. So yeah, then I got certified and started my own like travel coaching business.
That's
And that's what
awesome.
I'm doing now, like yeah, still building it up. Of course, it takes time.
Yeah.
And of course, like, yeah, now during the pandemic, not that many people are moving. I mean, it still
Mm-hmm.
happens, of course, but
Yeah.
I feel like once borders open, then it really take off, and then I'm ready, that I've built my
Yeah.
foundation. And so that's really exciting. Kept me busy during the lockdown, so that's good
Oh,
too.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah,
to
because
focus on.
I mean, I'm sure you can relate. Like now you have a business for like many years already, but like in the beginning, there's so many
Mm-hmm.
things. I had to learn everything. Like I never knew anything about starting a business.
Yeah.
So it's not just getting certified as a coach, but it's like all the like really business things I had to learn. I don't know anything about sales or marketing, or
Yeah.
I have to build my website and all of those little things, and it's
Yeah.
fun. I always like to learn new skills, but it's a lot.
You know your thing, but then you have to learn like this whole other thing. I don't want to say more important, but equally as important as like knowing what your your actual product or service is. It's crazy.
I'm still teaching Zoom as well, and I just have
Cool.
like a part-time job for a couple of days, just in the meantime while I'm building my business to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So
Been
that's
there.
good. Yeah,
Totally get it.
yeah, and it's still something. Still working with expats. I'm like advising on like visa processes, so it's still
Hmm.
like related. Something I like to do.
That's cool.
So it's good, yeah.
That's
And then the rest
awesome.
of the week, I just focus on building my business.
That's
Yeah.
great. And helping people with their visas and stuff. I mean, I'm sure that helps with your business too, kind of being able to find out what
potential issues are.
I was like, especially when I lived in different countries myself, it's really overwhelming sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess Barcelona, I was younger and student, it was like easier maybe.
Yeah.
Australia was more like, yeah, I had a serious job and you're far away and all of those things like culture
Mm-hmm.
shock, homesickness, work-life balance, you name it,
Totally.
like this complete list of things. I didn't have like all of the expert issues, but I kept reading about it and I was like, yeah, people struggle with different things when they move somewhere else. It also depends, of course,
Absolutely.
what you're used to and which
Mm-hmm.
language you speak, for example. So that's actually when I came to this idea, like it would be so great if you actually have someone who can guide you through the process and just you can talk to and support you with how you can really overcome those struggles and
Oh yeah.
yeah, make your life in a new country like a success, and instead of just worrying or feeling homesick or whatever, feeling like I can't
Yeah.
connect with anyone because I don't speak the language or so many
Yeah.
things. So that's
No.
yeah how I got this idea actually.
How long do you think you need to give a place before you can really decide whether you like it or not?
It depends on how different the place is, what you're used to, but I would say between like 6 months and a year. Yeah, I mean, if there's for example, a different language or the culture is like completely different, I feel like you need more time. Like for example, in Australia, like I was already used to speaking English, so that was not like a shock. So I felt like more at home, like quicker. I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And then, for example, Cambodia was like complete culture shock.
Oh, I
I was
can
like, oh my
imagine.
God, it was so different. Like language, I had no idea. Culture was like so different, like everything. So yeah, that's at least my experience. 6 months and a year. What is it
Yeah.
for you?
I think the same. I think like you should
Yeah.
give it a solid year
Mm-hmm.
before you, because I think like how you said before, 6 months, you're just getting a taste for what it is and like getting into your routine and like, starting to meet people and all that.
Yeah.
But, like I think like a solid year will give you some idea whether you appreciate it or not.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on what your goal is. Like for example, when I moved to Barcelona, I knew I could only spend 1 year because I had to
Hmm.
move back to the Netherlands to finish my studies. So then you know it's a year and you want
Yeah.
to make the most of it. So you don't really think about settling, you know, in a
Yeah.
country. But if you don't have like an end date, so
Totally.
so then you definitely need more time to really figure out, okay, do I want to stay in this country long term, and also yeah, create some new connections. It takes time
Hmm.
to build friendships or
Yeah.
just get to know your like neighborhood. And
It takes time to figure out all that stuff and your groove.
people underestimate that, how long it actually takes before you really feel like that, yeah, that you kind of like landed in a new place.
Like I said, in Barcelona, we were young and dumb, for lack of a better word. And
We were smart.
we were
Well,
smart, but you
but
know, I'll say
partying.
we were young and drunk. How about
Yeah, yeah,
that?
that's a better one.
So we were young and drunk, and then you went to Cambodia, and then you went to Australia. Like, and I mean, you touched on it a little bit with Cambodia, but like, how did you form your group there? Like, how did you meet people? How did you kind of like connect?
Yeah, there I guess I was really like in an expat bubble. It
Mm-hmm.
was hard to connect with locals because of the language. And then I went there for like an internship with the United Nations. Yeah, that was really interesting, but it was also tough because it was like all about the Khmer Rouge like trials. So the work itself was like really intense.
Yeah,
So I met a lot
heavy.
of people. Yeah, exactly. So I met a lot of people through work. Like, so first
Mm-hmm.
I just met colleagues, and then they had like their own events, kind of like, oh, join us for dinner tonight and meet some more people. So it kind of like started with work. Yeah, because as I said, I couldn't really get like local friends there because they usually didn't speak English. So then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like, how do you build a friendship? So I met a few Cambodian people through work as well who spoke English. So
Mm-hmm.
that was nice because I always like, to connect with locals as well, to learn more about the culture and stuff.
Yeah,
That's what the whole experience is about as well. Because if you're only
yeah,
in your bubble with internationals, you don't
yeah.
really experience the real culture.
Not at
Um,
all.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
and I
that's
think
basically how I
that's
met people.
sorry. I was just gonna say I think that's so true because I know a lot of people in Paris who are Americans who've lived there or whatever, but I don't hang out with very many of them because like that I didn't go to France to like be friends with Americans as
True.
horrible as that sounds, but like
No, I'm
it's
exactly
important.
the same. Yeah, I had it as well. I was like, every time when I moved somewhere else, I'm like, I have enough Dutch friends already
Yeah.
in my home country. I want to meet, people from my new country or like from wherever first.
Mhm.
And of course, sometimes it's nice also to have a few, Dutch friends too, just
Yeah.
if you feel like you want to speak the language and, you know, talk about some things from home or whatever,
Yeah.
like sometimes it's nice, but I felt like that's not the group I want to hang out with all the time, because
Yeah.
otherwise I could have stayed at home. Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, and
yeah.
with the work that you were doing in Cambodia, I'm sure that interacting with your colleagues, your Cambodian colleagues, is important too, so that you can get like the
Hmm.
full picture of what's going on.
True. Yeah, that made it more interesting, and just
Hmm.
you get a better understanding of daily life and all of those things.
Do you think that
Yeah.
you have to be like an outgoing person to move abroad?
I don't think so, because I don't really feel like I'm a super outgoing person myself. And I made it happen a few times. I think it's just sometimes if you're not super outgoing, you have to be like brave and push yourself a bit so that
Hmm.
you actually meet new people, because you can't just stay in your apartment and expect to have the best
Yeah.
time somewhere, because yeah, how are you going to meet people, right?
Hmm.
So I guess maybe it's a bit harder sometimes if you're not super outgoing, because you have to push yourself, and maybe it feels more like out of your comfort zone to connect with new people, start conversations with strangers, and build
Yeah.
friendships. But I feel like the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So then even if you're not like always the loudest person in the room, you still
Hmm.
find your way, and you find people who actually like resonate with you. It will work out. But
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes maybe you just have to be a bit braver than someone who is already like super outgoing and who finds it's easy to just connect with everyone.
I agree. I mean, did you watch Emily in Paris?
No,
No.
not yet. No.
Okay. Emily is this girl. She's an American. She moves to Paris for work. And she's just like sitting at all these cafes or sitting in the Jardin du Luxembourg and meeting all these people. And I'm like, that's not how that happens. Like, you're not just sitting there eating a baguette and then all of a sudden somebody comes up and talks to you. They're just
No.
like I think there's this like romantic image of, I mean, even outside of France, of like when you're a traveler, you're just so connected to everybody. And it's like,
No.
no.
No, it takes some effort. You really have to
Yeah.
put some effort in it and actually talk to other people as well. You can't just sit somewhere and just wait for people to come to you.
Yeah.
um, I guess it's also like the vibe you put out. If you're just sitting there, yeah, why would someone just, start a
Yeah.
conversation? Like you also have to be a bit like, or maybe even looking around and smile, or try to connect with someone. If you
Hmm.
see like someone else is also sitting alone, it's like, oh hey, where are
Yeah.
you from? Or just start some random conversation. But you have to sometimes take the first step, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's like a very American like point of view of things too, through the eyes of Emily in Paris, is like because I've noticed here as like being back in America, people get in your conversations. And
Oh,
like
really?
I feel like people in Europe don't do that. Like you could sit with your friend and have a conversation and I mean people might be listening to it, but nobody's going to like jump up and jump in and be like, "Oh yeah, like hey, this is, but," and it's
Oh no,
like
that would never happen here, I think. No, only maybe if you're like super loud, you know,
yeah.
that you feel like everyone can listen to your conversation. But
No, I
no,
know.
it would be like very rude, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, are
And
you
so
just, yeah, listening to what I'm saying, what I'm talking about with my friends?
yeah. And so it's like I've had that happen a couple times and I'm just like so caught off guard by it because it's like, why are you engaging with me. I don't know you. I'm not talking to you. But it's like a really American thing that I've noticed from living abroad for so long and then now being back for so long. It's like, I don't know. They just have this need to like interject. And
That's funny. Yeah.
it is really funny.
Living in different countries, you've changed your habits or things you were used to.
Well, and I think too, like at this point, I've spent a third of my life not living in America. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not that much, but it was like the majority of my adult life. I think that there's certain things that I'll never really be French or European, and there's certain things that I'll like never really be American in
Yeah.
anymore.
I feel like you just pick something from every country you live in and
Mhm.
create your own like package of things you like from each culture.
Totally.
Which is
Well, and like,
nice because
sorry.
you become like some sort of like citizen of the world instead of just being stuck to one country basically.
No, I agree. And then you get like wanderlust because
Mhm.
you're like, I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm also not supposed to be there. And I'm
Yeah, that's the risk when you move somewhere else. It's like, yeah, it's sometimes annoying that I feel like, okay, why can't I just be happy in one place and not think about all the places I want to go and feel
Mhm.
like you always want to go somewhere. And I'm like, oh, it must be so nice for people who actually are just happy with where they are and they don't want to go anywhere. But then
Oh, yeah.
if I think about that, I'm also like, no. But on the other hand, I've seen so many amazing places. I wouldn't want to miss that.
Yeah. No, I
So
100%
yeah,
agree.
and especially I feel like now I'm back in Europe. I'm so close to all the other countries. Like I can literally take a train from my city here to Paris, and
Mhm.
it takes me 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's so close. I can just go to Paris for a weekend, or just fly back to Barcelona or go to Lisbon or wherever. Within a few hours, I'm there. I'm like so close.
That is true. That's the one of the nice things, not just the one nice thing. I mean, going back to Australia too, like I know you were working, but what did that look like for making friends and finding your people there? Obviously, you found your fiance in the mall.
Yeah, exactly. So it can
But
happen just like that. If you want to make a new friend, just bump into someone and start a conversation.
it's like a movie, like a meet cute in a movie.
Exactly. Yeah, actually, I met friends in different ways there. Some at work, but not that many. Like I only made 2 friends at work, and the rest were just like
Mhm.
colleagues. I just went to like salsa parties by myself because I was already used to doing that
Yeah.
in the Netherlands because I was always dancing. I was like, I felt comfortable to. I would never go like to a normal club, like
Yeah.
by myself, but salsa parties always felt different because there, people just invite you to dance. So even when you're by yourself, then someone asks you to dance, and you talk a bit, you dance, and then
Mhm.
everyone is kind of like by themselves and
Yeah.
dancing with everyone. So I was like, okay, I can do that too in Australia. So I met some people through dancing actually, and then I also just signed up for some meetup events. There were these groups for like girls, whatever. I don't know. I don't remember the name. It's like, okay, let's see. So I went to those like nights, like I think 2 times actually, just to have a drink
Mhm.
and meet some people. And there I actually already met a few friends and we started hanging out. So it wasn't that hard. Yeah, but we just talked about like I had to put the effort in and go out there and take the first step. But then once you actually go somewhere, yeah, I actually met friends and then they knew someone else and
It
but it
all
was not like in
snowballs.
Barcelona that I was like collecting friends everywhere. Like once I knew a few people, I was like, okay, this is a great start. If I meet more people later on, it's fine, but I'm already happy with a few friendships and let's go from
Yeah.
there.
I will say I'm like an extrovert once I get to know somebody, but initially I'm very like introverted and I'm not somebody who goes up to somebody in a party or, that
Yeah,
kind
me
of
neither.
person.
No, no, me neither.
So,
No.
yeah, but I mean, you're right. It takes a lot, not a lot of work, but like it takes a little bit of effort to like kind of get the ball rolling. And then once it starts rolling,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
from
because for example, I remember those first salsa parties. I was just standing, on the side of the dance floor and just awkwardly looking around, like, okay, I don't know anyone yet. What am I going to do? So you just check out people a bit, and you hope someone asks you to dance. And then actually when that happened, I could start a conversation like, oh, I'm actually new here, and what are other good places to dance? And then I could start a conversation, and then actually that person would say like, oh, these are my friends, you guys can also dance with each other, and blah blah blah. And that's actually how it starts. But in the beginning, I remember I was like, okay, and now what? I felt so awkward. But
That's awesome. And I think that's really good advice too, is like find something that you like to do at home, like in your own country that you would do on any other normal week. And
then you already feel more comfortable to do that. So it's not like a big step, because you're like, okay, I know I enjoy still my safe space.
Yeah.
It's a new location. So that made it a bit like awkward in the beginning, but I was like, I know I will be fine because I love to dance. So yeah, whatever you like to do, try to do that activity, and then you meet people who like to do the same thing. So it's also easier to connect, because then it's like, oh, how long have you been doing this, or blah blah blah. You can easily start a conversation about that topic.
And then once somebody knows that like you're new in town or that you're from somewhere else, you become like this kind of like interesting person that they want to get to know more about, and like get to know more about where you come from. And is that kind of like what you're doing in terms of your coaching, or is it like more of like the administrative stuff, or is it kind of like all inclusive?
It depends a bit on what someone is looking for, but it's more like mindset stuff. But I do have experience with like, based on my background, with like the visa processes and stuff. So if someone needs help with that, I can always guide them with like the logistics and before you actually move somewhere. And then besides that, it's more like mindset, even like those type of questions. Okay, I'm new in the city and I'm all by myself, and now what?
Yeah.
What do I do? Or like, yeah, I actually feel super lonely, or I feel like super overwhelmed because I'm just working all the time, and then I come home and I'm tired and I don't want to go anywhere. So how do I meet new people? I feel like I don't even have time to explore my new city because I'm just overwhelmed. Or even just scared, with culture shock or like language barriers. It's like, oh, I don't even know. I'm just scared to get lost because I don't speak the language, and what happens. And there's so many things.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's even like, I don't know how to pronounce my address. Like when I was living in Morocco, my street didn't have a name. It's like, oh, I live behind the bank on this other street. So just get to the bank and then I can figure out how to get from there home.
Yeah, but that's also a thing, like even all those things you have to think about, like opening a bank account and the visa, just finances in general, like all of these things that you need to prepare. And also once you get somewhere, like finding an apartment, and you're basically just creating a whole new life somewhere. So there's so many things to think about. So it's actually nice to have someone you can just brainstorm with, or someone who can just keep you on track and make sure you don't forget anything and don't stress out. Because sometimes I think that's the biggest thing, that it can be so overwhelming, and then you just feel like stuck, or you don't even go anymore. You're like, okay, I can't do this. It was like a nice idea, but let's just stay at home, it's easier. Which is of course a shame, because it is so great if you actually move somewhere else. You learn so much from the experience.
Well, and I think too, if you're feeling homesick, like you said, like having a few of those Dutch friends that you can just, speak your language with, or, talk about stories from being back home and stuff like that. Like it helps a lot.
Or just with people you meet like in your new place, because everyone goes through those things at a certain moment. So sometimes also just starting a conversation about it, and then other people tell you like, oh yeah, I know exactly how you feel, I've been through this, this has helped me, or it's just good to talk about it, because otherwise you just get stuck in your own head, and it becomes worse.
And I've asked everyone this so far. If you could give like one piece of advice for somebody starting on this living abroad path, what would it be?
One piece. I would just like simply said, just go for it.
Mhm.
because like there's so many excuses or like worries or fears, or it's so many scenarios you can think about why you don't want
Mhm.
to do it. But if you have this dream, like if you always have been dreaming about like, oh, I wish I could move somewhere else. I've been dreaming
Mhm.
about maybe already like a specific country. Like if you have that dream, you should really go for it. And all those obstacles you can overcome. So many people moved everywhere, and like us, we're also example like that it's possible. It's not like it's something impossible. You just have to take it step by step and go for it. And it's also like that always helped me as well when I felt like it was super scary to take the step. I felt like if it's really bad, I can
Mhm.
always fly home. I just book a ticket and
Yeah.
leave. Like it's
Yeah.
not like the end of the world, but it's good to give it a try. And then of course once you try, it
Yeah.
will be a success.
You'll get hooked.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't even need that ticket anymore. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think the thing that's interesting too, and we're kind of in parallel with this, is that we did it in our early 20s. Then we chose another place in our later 20s, and then we chose another place in our 30s. So it's kind of like we've had it at a little bit of each kind of different
Face, yeah.
yeah, like, well, I mean, a different mindset too, like different,
True, true, yeah.
like early 20s in Barcelona, we're out partying and we're, never don't sleep, don't stop. And then, it's like like you had your early working time in Cambodia, so kind of like
Hmm.
a different mindset. And then,
Yeah,
in a corporate job in Australia, so it's like
it's
we're
completely different. True.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
proof that like you can do it.
Yeah, and whatever, even if it's just traveling like long term, and maybe like you having your own business as well, and
Mhm.
work from wherever. Yeah, it actually doesn't matter what age or what you're going to do. It can be for anyone basically, but it starts with taking the step to actually do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
absolutely.
figuring out how that's like later on. But first you just have
Exactly.
to decide for yourself, okay, I'm going to do this, and then the rest will work out.
I want to let everyone know where they can like reach you when they need to like jump and into a plane and discover something new and they need some advice.
Yes, definitely. So you can like reach me on different places. I have my own website. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well, and it's all the same name, so it's easy. It's
Okay.
Unpack by Veer. So it's Unpack by, and then Veer is Veer. So
Okay.
just one word, Unpack by Veer, and then my website is unpackbyveer.com, and Facebook and Instagram is just the name Unpack by Veer. So that's
Perfect.
where you can
Cool.
find me. Yeah, and it's always nice to connect with people, even if it's just like a chat like we're having now. There's
Yeah.
so many stories you can talk
I
about.
know. It's true.
Yeah.
And I think
Even if it's
that's
sometimes just to like brainstorm with someone, like,
mhm.
if you have different ideas, or even like, oh, I'm not sure if it's something that's for me, should I do this? Really helps.
Like the interesting thing is that like I mean we shared such a short amount of our lives together, but I feel like and even though we don't talk very often, like I
Yeah.
do consider you one of my dear friends. Like I consider you somebody that like I spent, a significant time of my life with, and I think that when you meet people like that when you're out, abroad and things like those are lifelong friendships.
Even if you maybe don't see each other for a few years, I mean, we haven't
Mhm.
really seen each other in person for a long time, but we
Yes.
always kept in touch. And then, now when we speak to each other, it's like, it feels like we saw each other yesterday, basically, it's like
Exactly.
those type of friendship. I feel like they just stay for like your whole life. That's also the beauty of it. Yeah, even sometimes maybe when you don't even talk that much,
Mhm.
when you see each other again or when you speak, it's fine. It was so nice to have
I
this
know, it
chat.
was very nice. I've enjoyed this. This was fun. We need to do this more often.
Yeah.
Well, that was our interview with Verla. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. She is just a great person and a great resource to have if you are looking to travel as a single lady alone or get your feet wet with living abroad, all of those things. I just think you should check her out for sure. And yeah, it was all about, you've passed the homesick phase, you've passed the bank account and the finding a house, you ditched the crazy family. Hopefully you didn't have to. And now this is the friendship side and the part, like, you get into the meat of things now, the getting to know people and the making lifelong connections and all of the good stuff, all of the meat of what it is to live abroad and have those experiences. And one thing that I do want to stress, the importance of finding friends, yes, of your same cultural background, but finding friends of different backgrounds too. Because, if you're in Morocco or if you're in Spain or if you're in Paris or if you're in Tokyo, you're there to experience what it's like to be in that culture. And it's so invaluable to have friends from the culture of the place that you're in, because you will see that place through a whole different lens than you will see it as an American or as a French person or as a Chinese person or as a Mexican person hanging out with other Mexicans or hanging out with other Chinese in Tokyo. You know what I mean? So it'll just open your world up and help you connect really to that culture and just help you connect to that friend. I mean, you're sharing a common experience and you're learning about them and you're learning about their culture, and there's an exchange that happens when you embrace friends from different places, and it's very exciting. Veerle is from the Netherlands. All of our friends were from Germany. We were also friends with Spanish people. So it was just a really nice mix of, for me at least, different cultures around Europe. Yeah, it was a good time if you didn't notice. One of the other important things I just want to sum up with is, I touched on it a little bit in the episode last week, episode 8, about homesickness. But there is a sense of impermanence when you are a student or you are an expat in a country. It's not the same as being an immigrant and being someone who's chosen that place as your forever home. So there's a sense of impermanence, and that's something that you do have to go into a friendship knowing that when you're there as a student or you're there as an expat, there's an expiration date more or less on when you're going to be leaving. So it's important to keep those things in the back of your mind. And if you value those friendships that you're creating, to really figure out how you're going to invest and how you're going to continue to move forward in those relationships as you move through your life together. All right. That is what I have for you this week. Next week, we are going to be talking about my favorite thing that I talk about probably on every single episode except for this one so far. That's food. I love food. I love food, guys. Food is so good. And I'm in Morocco and we're at the epicenter of like my favorite things to eat. So next week, we're going to talk about the big holiday that's coming up, which is my favorite eating holiday, and that is Eid al-Kabir. So it's the sheep holiday. We're going to talk about the time I ate testicles. We're going to talk about finding Mexican food anywhere outside of Mexico or California. We are going to talk about French gastronomie, the fancy ass food in France. We are going to talk about snails and frog legs and all the things I love to eat, which is pretty much anything. If you haven't figured that out, I am game to try anything once. And more often than not, I end up loving it. So I'm excited to talk to you next week about food and about all the good things that I have eaten in my travels, because that's half the fun. I think that's like 3/4 of the fun. Like seeing the things, meeting the people, eating the food. Those are the things that I like to do. Anyway, I just want to thank you guys for liking, subscribing, sharing, rating, and reviewing this podcast, because it is helping us to grow. And I would appreciate that you like and share and subscribe and rate and review this podcast as much as you possibly can. And I just appreciate it all. And as always, if you're interested to know more about me and my business, you can find that information out at atelierkate.com, ATELIER Kate, KATE.com, or on Instagram at atelier, ATELIER_Kate. And of course, join us over on Instagram at our podcast community there at 10 hours from home. You will get to see a lot of my travels around Morocco at the current moment. And once I get back to Paris, some fun things there. I love to share on that platform. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to join me over there. And of course, feel free to reach out to us on the podcast with any questions. hello@atelierkate.com. And yeah, I wish you guys a very happy week ahead of you. And I will keep eating until I talk about food next week. All right. Have a good week. Bye. And as always, this podcast would not be possible without my dear friend Jewel, who is a sound engineer. And she makes me sound like I'm a pro and like I know what I'm doing when it comes to sound. It has been much trial and error, but thanks to her, she has made it happen. So you can find her on Instagram at Jewel, JEWEL, Remeta, REMETA. And she does sound engineering, and she's incredible at it, and she does Reiki and healing, so you can reach out to her for either of those things. And the other amazing woman that I have to thank for this and for keeping me on track and doing all the good things for this podcast to help it grow is Nuhaila, who is the owner of a branding agency called Branda Blanca, and you can find her at Branda Blanca on Instagram, BRANDABLANCAA on Instagram, and brandablanca.com. And she just does some amazing stuff in terms of social media, branding, content, and honestly, she just keeps me on time. She keeps me sane. She makes sure everything gets done. The only reason that things get done is because of Nuhaila, thankfully. So if you're interested in her services, definitely reach out to her. And again, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.